Good evening to the viewing public of SVG TV. My name is Vincent and welcome to Key Issues, a production of the New Democratic Party, discussing the key issues in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and everything that's topical to the people of our nation. Our first guest this evening for our inaugural program is none other than the leader of the New Democratic Party, the Honorable Arnhim Eustace, the leader of the opposition, responsible for shadowing the ministries of everything that has to do with finance and the economy, of course, and national security and all of that. Mr. Eustace, welcome to Key Issues.
Thank you very much, Vincent, and of course I'm very happy to be here. This is our first program, Key Issues.
Right. Well, tomorrow is independence, 32 years as a nation, and we are basically 1 year into the ULP's administration of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, given a close 8-7 result in the election and hard-hitting parliamentary sessions from the first sitting of Parliament, indeed. And I guess the question on every Vincentian's mind must be, what exactly is the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Basically, we are in a very, very serious condition, the state of this country. The economy is bad, and there's a lot of crime and other activities which are not legal. But the most important, of course, is the state of the economy, because that impacts on people's lives in a very significant way, daily, and of course it has significance, great significance for jobs. We are now into our third year. We have completed, actually, 3 years of negative growth. By that I mean that the economy has got smaller and smaller each year for the last 3 years.
Well, let me ask a question. Negative growth, that's, as you explain it, a contracting economy. Exactly how do people feel that?
Basically, there's less for everybody. It is true that our system is not one where distribution is equal. But each group in our society has been impacted negatively in the whole. But those at the bottom of the ladder are the ones most negatively impacted. A lot of people are unemployed, and the level of unemployment is growing. A lot of people cannot make the basic necessities of life. And by this I mean simply things like having proper meals 2 or 3 times a day, being able to send their children to school without hindrance because they have enough money to pay for transportation and so forth. A lot of people are impacted negatively in that way. The number of persons whose electricity is cut off, the number of persons whose water is cut off, is a very serious problem, and I have to deal with that every day in my office. There's not a day that passes either on the phone or in person. You have to deal with these issues. And that goes to all of our candidates. And I dare say it goes to the government's ministers too. We are in a serious condition, and there is no immediate prospect that I see from action and the action taken by the government that is going to carry us out of this mess.
I think that that's an important point that you're making, the fact that it really is the government's responsibility to create action in the economy.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm putting it very simply there. What exactly is causing this situation where the government isn't acting properly or is unable to act?
You see, the government is fooling itself. It is very topical to blame our economic problems. Oh, it's happening all over the world. But not everybody is managed it in the same way. If you look at the IMF report on St. Lucia, they said St. Lucia has weathered the storm and they have gone back into economic growth.
Wow.
If you look at what they said St. Vincent, it's quite a different story. So what I'm saying, there's need for action at the local level that recognizes that we have an international crisis, with the aim of getting us out of that crisis or having it less impacting on us. And there's where the government has failed. There are no new real policies. They owe the private sector a lot of money. They talk glibly about doing something more for the private sector so they can create jobs. But the private sector is laying off. Businesses are closing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some are being sold at prices that are not really what they would like to get. Mm-hmm. Indeed, they don't want to sell in the first case. Because the poor performance of the economy, they're unable to meet their own liabilities. And therefore, they find themselves deeper and deeper into trouble.
So exactly, it's been 32 years.
Yeah.
And where we could have charted some sort of progress, throughout every administration, there was progress of one sort or the other. You're saying to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that St. Vincent is actually retrogressing at this point?
Of course, never in our history would you think of 3 consecutive years of the economy not growing, becoming smaller and smaller. It's going to come smaller again in 2011. Based on what has happened with bananas and what has happened with tourism, the likelihood is that we'll have a 4th year of negative growth.
Now, again, you brought up bananas.
Yeah.
And the agriculture sector used to be a backbone sector in
Yeah.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There used to be a time when banana farmers their trucks would be lined up all up to the UE Center,
Yeah.
you know, shipping over to the UK. Our produce, of
Yeah.
course, those days are far behind us.
Yeah.
How would you say that the government has really dealt a death blow to our bananas?
Basically, the first problem we had is one of increased competition. And that is why institutions like WIPDECO and so on were set up with the aim of trying to make our industry here more effective. Yeah. But it needs a constant attention. And it needs a very vibrant set of persons running our agriculture. What is happening is the law has been changed, which in fact puts the government mostly in control of the banana industry. They have taken over the assets and the liabilities. But nobody's even bothered to calculate the assets to see how much more they add in there. When I say the assets, the things that banana own as distinct from what they owe.
Right.
And I suspect what they own was more than what they owed. Yet none of that has been passed back to farmers. But the problem that we have most now is the problem of black sigatoka, which we have known about since 2009. There was a presentation during the estimates by the Minister of Agriculture, and it's in the estimates itself, saying they were going to have a program for spraying of our bananas to control black sigatoka. And then you had Hurricane Thomas that destroyed the entire crop, 98%. And there was some inputs from government in terms of fertilizer, some income support, to try and bring back our industry after October 30th, 2010. So people replanted. And you're just at the point where you're beginning to get back into stride in terms of our exports. But no spraying was done. No spraying.
So is it that
done.
you just had no money?
Well, they say they're blaming the civil servants. The fact remains is that they didn't really have any money to do it. And they didn't organize to get the money to do it. Because remember, this government started this year with a current deficit of 105 million. That is, they were spending 105 more million on the current budget than they had the revenue for.
So they're actually spending, and we are $105 million
You started
in the
that
hole.
way.
We
Yeah.
start in the hole.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, on the current budget, the Prime Minister admitted in Parliament that as the end of August, we are already over $30 million down in the hole, $37 million down in the hole. You know, it's a very serious issue. But you spend money on all sorts of other things, which could never be as important as banana industry.
Sure.
And now you're trying to rush a program through without counting all the damage to the industry. I don't accept those figures at all that the government presented there for $2 million as representing anything near the damage that has been done to the banana industry. And we are now having the possibility of losing the industry. I'm very serious about that. Because I said it 3 weeks ago, we'll soon be selling bananas on consignment.
And consignment, that means that you will sell, basically you get paid when you sell, and if you sell.
And what you sell. You know, and our quality is low now because of the same black secret.
But from a very practical point of view, exactly what position does that put the average banana farmer in? I mean, what sort of impact is that going to have? Or is the situation of the state of the industry having on banana farmers as they have communicated with you?
Yes, listen, the government needs to really put its team on the ground work with the farmers to assess the extent of the damage going forward, and then come up with the program. There are some farmers who haven't cut back yet. The farmers now, all those spraying have started, whose fields have not been sprayed yet. And all those fields are still infected and being infected more and more each day. So you rush a program through because you know you don't have enough money to really tackle the overall program.
Wow.
But that is a waste of time because you'll continue to be plagued by the disease and you'll not get the levels of production that you need going forward.
How do you respond to people who say, well, you know, this is an industry that has been under pressure since even in the days of the New Democratic Party, so, you know, this is nothing new, and why don't farmers just look for something else to plant? How do you address that? I mean, what argument are the farmers making to hold on to bananas?
Let me just tell you something. In the last 10 years in the Democratic Party, the average exports of bananas per year was $63.7 million.
You mean that we earn $63.7 million every year for 10 years?
That's the average. Some years it was higher, some was lower. That's the average.
Wow.
Now it's 240 million, right? That we earn for the 10 years of the ULP. An average of about 20, as compared with 63, less than 1/3 of the value earned to the economy. So while it is true that our economy has shifted more and more to services, bananas continue to play a very important role because it's one of the crops where farmers get a regular income, a regular cash flow. Most of the other areas of agriculture, you don't get paid like that. You might get paid once in 9 months, depending on if it's a root or whatever the case may be. Even the cash crops, what do you call cash crops, potato and so on. You know, that is nothing that gives you something every week or every fortnight. So the banana industry has a very critical role to play in keeping the farmer going while he diversifies into other commodities, along with his bananas. And that's what our policy has been. Preach diversification for agriculture around bananas. Before they recognized the industry will never be what it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Well, I know that the New Democratic Party has often said that it is in a position to make things better in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Exactly how would the NDP tackle agriculture?
First of all, we are convinced that we own enough infrastructure in Britain because of our 50% ownership of Geese Industries to in fact sell other commodities to the same supermarkets in Britain that we are selling our bananas. We have our ships coming here every week. We have staff in Southampton, in UK. We have 9 acres at the port there. We have the facilities to receive and unload our bananas. We have our quality control staff for bananas up there, who are not yet now fully occupied as they used to be, given the amounts we are sending nowadays, and so on. And those same supermarkets need other exotic products. And I'm saying, along with our bananas, we have to negotiate with those same supermarkets and get ourselves involved in some other commodities. In the same way we have arrangements with St. Lucia and Dominique and so to get our bananas up, we must do the same, identify some commodities, enter into contractual relationships with our farmers to make sure we have a regular supply of those commodities to utilize the transport. The boats that come down now, they can't justify coming, you know. So what they do, they pass into the Santo Domingo on the way up in order to use up the space. Because if they charge the whole space to the Grenadine Island, then the farmer will not get anything for his bananas.
Wow.
So there are activities that you can take an interest in and promote.
Again, in the area of farming, and when I say farming, I should really say agriculture and fisheries.
Fisheries, yeah.
What exactly is the state of play with our fishing industry?
Well, we have lost the ability to export to Europe, which effectively means man, you can go on. Okay? They have certain standards have to be met. We were blacklisted some years ago. Of course, the NDP got all the blame for that. But 11 years, you're now into 11th year, under the ULP. And what we have done now is close the latest fisheries complex we have at Oyo. We still have not met the standards that the Europeans have put out. And nobody can give you a real practical reason why, after 10 years, and you're now into 11th year, we cannot get our fisheries exports going again.
Is it that the Minister of Agriculture just can't cope? Is it beyond him to really tackle the ministry?
It has always been beyond him, quite frankly. And I don't want to get into his latest statements that he made. I just think he should go as Minister of Agriculture. It's far beyond him.
Well, I know that agriculture has been one of the sectors that has been topical. Tourism as well is one of the areas where it was said that we were replacing agriculture with tourism. What has that replacement manifested itself in really?
Well, the earnings from tourism are much higher than that of bananas. That's the reality.
Yes.
Whether you look at it from the yachting sector or the cruise ship sector and so on. But those are now in decline also. We just lost Princess Cruise, you know. We need to again look at our commodities. Some work has been done by improving our sites and so forth, things like that, which have been damaged since the storm anyway, some more. But I'm not getting the impression that we are really going out there and pushing this country. And probably a part of the reason for that has to do with the same budget, you know, because the Tourism Authority is financed from the recurrent budget, which means that is the area where you have a deficit of $105 million.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know whether sufficient money is being transferred to the Tourism Authority to carry the work it is supposed to be doing. You know? About 70% of our economy is now in services, you know. I mean, this is outside agriculture.
Right.
So we have a more service-based economy than we have one based on agriculture. But we can do much better than we are doing in agriculture. We can do better than we are doing in tourism. But is it that, if the effort is not there, all you hear about is airport and diversion of resources to the airport. We don't know when the airport is coming. But you have to promote now.
Yes.
Because you still have to bring in people to maintain the properties that are here, the dependency over visitors.
Well, I know that the New Democratic Party has been saying, you know, it's time to make things better in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And after this break, we're going to delve more into what's happening with our country ahead of the independence celebrations of tomorrow and our 32nd year. And we'll hear more from Arnhim Eustace, the leader of the New Democratic Party, right after this message.